that really, I think there's a misunderstanding about is this idea of unity. So like here in America, I always hear people talking about, we need to unite, which is, I can agree with it.
Okay.
But for some reason, we have this idea, or some people have this idea that our brothers and sisters on the continent are so much more united than we
Do
are.
they really? Because the groups that I'm in with Black Americans, they're always like, and that's why the Africans don't have this, and they can't do that, and they don't even like us. And maybe they think within the group, like Ghanaians to Ghanaians are more close than, and I feel like where you're going is in terms of tribalism. So how
Right.
people interact within the tribes. So I feel like on the surface, it's like, okay, I'm Fanti. Most other people, not most, but Ashantis are the majority of the population. And then you have, the Gas, the Dagbanis, the Ewes, the Hawuzas, the people who, the Nigers, they're not Ghanaian, but, they are in Ghana, whatever. So I think on the surface, we interact with one another warmly.
Right.
But just like I feel like in America, at home, it's kind of like, well, those Ashanti people do XYZ.
Exactly.
And the Fanti people do XYZ. But I mean, even within, like, I'm Fanti and I'm from Cape Coast. Cape Coast itself, near what people know Cape Coast for, which is the castle, which isn't all Cape Coast has to offer, but that's where my family is from, the majority. We have some family that are also from Tuckrade. But next to Cape Coast is Elmina. So all of these people, Central Region starts from Kaswa and it goes all the way to Tuckrade. So those people are all considered Fanti. But within Cape Coast, people will tell you, like, the Fantis from Elmina will tell you they're more hardworking than the Fantis from Cape Coast. And so you will tell, so people will say, like, oh, they're Fanti, and then somebody will say, oh, you from Cape Coast, and I'll be like, oh, no, I'm from Elmina. Because the ones in Cape Coast, they lazy. Like, that's how they are. That's how they are. I don't take it as personally, because I've asked people, like, even within Cape Coast, I've been like, I've asked men. I'm like, excuse me, they said that the Fanti men in Cape Coast are lazy. Is it true? And they be like, it's true. And they talking about themselves. I'm like, so you are lazy. He's like, well,
Hey,
But the funny thing is, like, at one point I was, from my own YouTube, I was interviewing, like, older people who live in Cape Coast, my uncle, family, different people, and asking them different things. And one person said that when the white people came to Ghana for the purposes of the slave trade, they set up the forts in Cape Coast. And what they did was they protected the Fanti people from being captured and snatched in Cape Coast. But they also, so they would trade textiles and goods to the Ashanti Kingdom. And they used that to build Kumasi, and they would leave alcohol and booze in Cape Coast. So the Cape Coast people are like, hey, it's good, relax. They like, we don't got no worries over here.
Yeah, we chilling. Yeah.
Who has the club? Who has the star? Let's go have a drink. Yeah. And as a result of it, you look at Cape Coast, and Cape Coast is underdeveloped. It's very underdeveloped. There's not a sense of community there that is pushing for the advancement and the growth of Cape Coast. So when I heard that, I was kind of like, that sounds like that could be very true. That sounds like it could be very true, because, the Fanti people, the men are very, very lax, a lot of them. And the ones who are not lax, they typically pick up and leave Cape Coast and go to Accra or Kumasi and get the education and build and do different things. And they come back home to visit, but they don't stay within the community to build the community. So I feel like amongst the groups, they definitely say different things. They say Ashantis are like flashy and money, whatever, which the history of slavery, the history of slavery is the Ashantis were fighting within the kingdom for domination. And that's why they started capturing other people and selling them off, because they wanted money, so it's kind of like, I could believe that one too. So,
know, with you saying that, it really, it brings me to the thought that, you know, a lot of African Americans or Black Americans, whatever we want to categorize ourselves as, I think they're surprised when Ghanaians, a lot of Ghanaians don't really know our history.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people who think that Ghanaians should, like, maybe they should know that our history. And I think a lot of us don't even know we only know the history that we're taught here, which is very watered down, very okay, which is very watered down, and it's very, it, to me, it paints a really not so clean, or it paints a clean picture. When
it's revised. It's very much, yes.
When the picture is very staggered, and there's so many different narratives. And like, I have one friend who his mother is Elway, his father is Fanti, Gan. Yeah, the mother is Elway, the father is Gan. The mother's family got rich off of the slave trade, and the father's family was sold into slavery.
Yeah.
And somehow they ended up back in Ghana after, they were sold to Brazil, and they were sent to Brazil in some kind of way. They ended up back in.
So at one point, because one of the people I interviewed, he used to work, I don't want to say the Navy, but he used to work on ships that transited from Ghana to Brazil. And there were a lot of Ghanaians during that time who went back and forth that way. So it's possible that the ships went there for trade and were docked there, and they came back knowing where they were from during that time. So my thing was, when I started kind of doing my little bit of research, because my bachelor's is actually in history, I wanted to learn what Ghanaians had learned about slavery. So I talked to different people of different age groups to kind of see what that was. And then I went to the University of Legon library to look at what books they had available for people to learn. And unfortunately, the books they had there were all written by white people. They were fairly modern. And so I think Ghanaians also, if they get any kind of slave education currently, it's also a watered down version of how things were. There's a lot of details that are kind of left out. And I think in part, it speaks to why Ghanaians are welcoming and accepting of white people coming into Africa, coming into Ghana to do business. A lot of them don't fully understand the details. They understand it on the surface. And so I do hear in some groups like Black Americans, African Americans saying like, well, y'all don't even know y'all history and this, that, and the third. And they're partially right, but neither do you guys on that level. Because listen, this is one of the things that really, really gets me with people, because I've seen that a lot with African Americans and Africans arguing, and they're like, my ancestor and this, and my ancestor and my this and my story. And I'm like, do you understand that you guys are telling the same story?
The same story.
Do you understand that your ancestor is that person's ancestor? So you trying to fight them. You trying to fight your sister about the slave trade like her mama wasn't taken. Like, I'm not understanding what you're saying. Well, and I feel like there's an aspect of it now currently, because tensions are high, where they want to blame, or they want answers from modern day Africans about what was done hundreds of years ago.
Okay.
And it's like, that's not realistic. Not because there's not a level of responsibility, but because just like you don't know the details, they don't know the details.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think one of the things is it's 100% a fact that Africans were involved in the slave trade.
Right.
But the aspect of it that people need to understand is it wasn't a majority. Exactly. So when the Chinese come in 2020 to build a road in Accra, the 30 million people on the continent do not know what the details of the contract are. So they see them and they say, okay, the government let them come. Whatever they come to do here must be legit, and keep it moving. They don't fully understand that that deal that they orchestrated is a dirty deal, and it has a negative aspect on their neighbor's business or their business or what they should be able to do. They don't understand that. So then when you're looking to hold a general person accountable for something they don't understand, it's like it doesn't work like that, because there are so many more details to the scenario. While there were Africans who willingly snatched and assisted in the snatching and selling of Africans into the slave trade, there was a lot of people who didn't know. And there were a lot of people who, when they found out, they fought, they died, they set up traps, they weren't for it. And that's why when I see, like, and I say this all the time, when I see shows like Underground and anything that shows fight, resistance, and whatever, I'm like, if you're a real Black person, you know that it is not genetically in us to see our brother or sister being hurt, even if you don't like them, and not have a reaction. There are some of us, the minority of us, who are willing to be involved in these things for the betterment of ourselves as individuals. But to think that the majority knew what was going on and they didn't care is absurd. Right. Because, you know, when people found out about it, that's when you saw the real resistance. Because, like I said, when I started doing the research, they were like, oh, they found out. So, like, some of them were running and some of them were being killed. They made it to Cape Coast and they told them, look, the Ashantis are coming. They're capturing people. They started setting traps. They started fighting from Cape Coast back to the Ashanti kingdom. They fighting all along the way. They killing, they dying on the road. Their family don't know where they are. There were instances where in the beginning they were being told, you know, go with these white people. They're going to take you to their country. You're going to work in and you can send money.
You're going to come back.
Exactly. They're still doing that in 2020. Today, exactly. They're still doing that in 2020. And this is why I say the poverty is what allowed us to be in a situation. It wasn't just the greed. It's this situation where you got elders who have gold, who have all the land, who have all of this, and they not dispersing that wealth amongst their community people. That makes them susceptible to trust anybody who looks different than them. And that's why we're, even here in America, that's why we're still, you know, in this kind of situation.
And see, that's the part that really kind of, I tell people, you really need to, it's really important that we bridge this gap between us, so that, like, when I'm talking to you, a Ghanaian who knows the history on that side and who knows the history on this side, like you're like an anomaly. Like, you know both sides of this, and it's really important that we have the conversation, so that, because these people, I think the best thing that white people have ever been able to do is to keep us from actually dealing with each other.
And I think part of them keeping us from getting to know each other is giving us scraps.
Exactly.
And I don't even mean scraps of details of what happened. I mean scraps of life. So people get too comfortable. Yes. People get too comfortable. And this is one of the things I say that really, really gets me with Ghana is there's so much money to be made in Ghana.
God, yes.
Clean money. Yes. Clean money, scam-free money. But what they do is they reward certain people for doing dirty deeds, and then people see the product of those rewards and they want to go that route. They don't want to go the honest route.
So let me ask you this, as a Ghanaian, bridging this gap with a Black American or African American, I really don't like either one of those terms. I don't know how to classify this thing, but
I just say Black. I don't really like the term African American for myself, but I say Black because I feel like it connects me to everybody that looks like me, no matter where you come from.
I do too. Yeah. It's hard. That has been a struggle for me for a while. But as a Black,
right?
Being Black and you're from Ghana, you know your history in Ghana. You know our history here in America. What do you think it is we need to do to kind of close that?
Okay, so there.
For more on this video, please click the link in the description below. Thank you.